Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Upper Tier Podcast out there on YouTube. Head over there, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Joining me tonight for a Tottenham Hotspur versus Arsenal preview, friend of the show, a guest as always, Maurice Shortall. How are we, Maurice?
Good, Niall. Thanks for having me, man.
Maurice is joining us from Cheap Heat Productions podcast as well, so check that out on YouTube. Fantastic podcast out there that gives you a blend and mix of many different guests from many different walks of life, but always a very interesting interview. Also joining me on this, I don't know whether I should say wearing the white of Tottenham, I'm not too sure about that, but joining us anyway, my partner in crime on the podcast, the Dazzler, Darren. How are we, Darren?
I'm good, pal. I'm all good. Good to have you, Maurice.
Great to have you. Great to talk to you again, man.
Excellent. So where to begin? Thursday night, Maurice, a massive North London derby. I think it's probably the one in a long time that has a lot of meaning to it and a lot of stuff on the line to it. A top four stroke, potentially top three place. Who knows? But certainly everything on the line here in terms of the impact of it, because a Champions League position for either club would be massive in terms of, I think for Spurs, they probably have more on the line, because I think if they don't get Champions League football, our friend Antonio Conte might decide on an exit strategy plan or something like that.
Yeah.
And for yourselves, of course, it's really, really important. Arteta's just signed a new 3-year deal. But in terms of player attraction coming in terms of finances and exposure and all that, and lifting Arsenal back into a top four situation as well, absolutely massive for both clubs.
Yeah, I think they're slightly under a bit more pressure, I think, because they really need to win the game, I think, because they're 3 points behind, isn't it? Or 4 even. 4 is a 3. I think it's 3.
3, I think.
3, yeah. So they really need to win it. Like, a draw is going to be no good to them, but whereas a draw for us, wouldn't be the worst result in the world either.
They're 4 behind you.
4.
Well, then 62 and you're 66.
Yeah, well, then they need to win.
Have the game in hand?
No, they're all on 35.
Okay.
All on 35, so there's 4 in it. So they have to win, which is going to be an interesting dynamic as well, Darren, I suppose, if you want to take this, because Conte's kind of form and his thing is to kind of sit in and counter-attack on the break, not necessarily be on the front foot and have to seek out a win, kind of find a win as opposed to kind of seek it out and chase it and stuff like that. What you thinking there?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's obviously the kind of game plan he went in with against Liverpool on Saturday, wasn't it? Was to try and keep things as tight as they could, and then obviously kind of play in that counter-attacking style, which served them quite well. And I have to say, they looked very, very organised at the weekend, more organised than I've seen them in a long, long time. They didn't give up as many kind of clear-cut chances. The one-on-one defending at the back was much better than it had been. The decision-making process, everything looked very, very good, I have to say. But like you said, with the game against Arsenal, this is a must-win. This isn't we can go out and defend well, because if we go out and defend well, it's 0-0, we're in trouble here. Because 4 points behind, 3 games left, they have to beat Arsenal and hope there's a slip-up as well. So this is huge for Spurs. And I think you're right. I think Conte's done a pretty good job with what he's had at his disposal so far. And with the lack of investment maybe in January, we know he was looking for a greater number of signings and stuff like that. I think this is huge for Spurs, because I think if they could somehow stumble into that 4th spot, it could be massive, because obviously you'll hang on to Conte. He'll keep his feet under the table. You can then go out in the summer and try and throw a few quid at it and see if you can close the gap between, where you are and what's above you. And I mean, with a manager like Conte, it's plausible to believe that he can do that with them,
Yeah, I suppose the interesting thing, and we probably have to mention it as well, is that the result tomorrow night when Chelsea play Leeds, that's going to be very interesting as well, because if Leeds were to get a win there, that creates a very different dynamic for Thursday as well, somewhat, in terms of a 3rd and a 4th spot title race, if you like. Maurice, what have you made? I mean, you were very depressed and down last September and October, and Arteta was the devil incarnate, basically. Me and you did an episode on the Upper Tier talking about the interview that Edu gave to Sky Sports and how ridiculous it sounded at the time. But we're kind of both sitting here now in the mud over that, really, aren't we? Because everything he said has kind of come to fruition, really, in terms of you've got your full squad there. It's really, really performed well at times when he's had a full complement. He shifted Aubameyang out and he made those hard decisions that had to be made. What's your feeling there now on the backdrop of a 3-year contract?
This is how I'd sum it up. He's made shoe polish out of horse shit this year because of the players that he's got rid of and then the players that he has at his disposal. Like, we have like such a thin squad that there's guys coming up every week on the bench that I've never even heard of. You go onto the Premier League website and there's guys with no photos even in their Premier League profiles. There's a new Irish guy that I didn't know was with Arsenal as well that came up, some 20-year-old that was on the bench a couple of weeks ago that I didn't even know was Irish. Like, he plays for the Irish under-20s. So I think he's made some massive, massive calls. And if he's to beat Tottenham now on Thursday, everything is paid off, I think.
Yeah. Darren, what you're thinking, Arteta?
Yeah, I suppose, like, I'd agree with a lot of what Maurice said there. Like, the squad is paper thin in areas, you know, and they've got, maybe, if you look at that left-hand side, you've obviously got Tierney, who's your first choice. But after Tierney, you know, the level and the quality drops quite drastically, you know.
Yeah.
And you are relying on having the full complement all the time to put that kind of best foot forward. But, like, I think he's done pretty well with the squad he's had. I think at the start of the season, as you said, like, looking at the start they had and the signings they brought in and stuff, I don't think any of us were convinced. But, you know, slowly and steadily, he's put some blocks in place and to build the foundations there for what could be a really, really good squad over the next couple of years if they can keep adding quality in the right areas. You know, there's still probably another centre back short. There's still probably, you know, maybe even 2 centre midfielders short and
2
a striker.
strikers.
Yeah.
2.
So, you mean, if you look down the spine of that squad, has it gotten better? I think it has. I think when Partey's available, I think he plays a big part for them. I think the boy Ben White looks a super footballer. Really, really does. I think Ramsdale's been unbelievable. If he's not your player of the season, I'd be shocked. But a little more work on that spine of that side. And they've got some good tactics, like, and I'm a massive fan of the boy Saka and stuff like that. So there's talent there. Saka, you know, Odegaard's done well, Smith Rowe, Martinelli. Like, there's a plethora of talent there at his disposal, isn't there?
Yeah, I just think we could be in bother come the summer though with the striker situation. I was glad he finally gave up on Lacazette, to be honest. Like, 4 goals this season, he hasn't scored since December. So he gave the boy Nketiah a run out the last few games, and in fairness, he's got, I think, 4 goals in 6 games now. So not a bad return. Like, not a world-class player, but he's one of those players that never gives up on anything. You could see that with the goal he got the other day when he closed the Meslier down for the first goal against Leeds. Like, Lacazette wouldn't have scored that goal. You know?
Yeah, I suppose it's an interesting dynamic there, the way you both mentioned that the squad is so thin, which means he's done an even more incredible job, really, to get you into a top 4 position and stuff like that. But I was thinking about the show today and working, I was thinking, you know, with the job he did from where you were, bottom of the league at that first international break, no points, negative goal difference, the whole lot, and to get you into this top 4 position. And I was thinking, he kind of has to be in that conversation for manager of the year, really, if he gets a top 4. But the thing about it, I was thinking about him, is his personality and his look is so cold. There's nothing endearing about him. You struggle to find something to like about the guy, so it's very hard to put him in the conversation. But what he's achieved has been absolutely incredible. Like, I mean, when you think about it,
is he a little bit Pep-esque like that?
Yeah, but so much, yeah. But there's probably even something. You look at Pep as well. There is a sort of a side to Pep as well that can be a little bit endearing as well. Whereas when you look at Arteta, like, he's just cold.
I got to be honest. The only thing that endears me to Pep is the football he plays and his team plays. But I think, like, you know, listening to Arteta, he speaks very much like a Pep, and he gives those short one-word answers and, you know, that blank stare and stuff like that, and like.
Just real cold, isn't he? He's real cold.
Very cold. It's really tough, obviously, if you're a journal or anything like that, or a reporter, and you're trying to, you know, get the scoop on that, and he's just sitting there looking at you going, no. You're like, right, so.
But you kind of, you know, the way we talk about Eddie Howe and the job that Eddie Howe has done in Newcastle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, Arsenal were below Newcastle at that stage. You know what I mean? So it's amazing the job that he's done. I just think it's incredible. What did you make? Obviously, I mean, Maurice, you're going into this game on the back of a 2-1 win against Leeds. You looked like it was really comfortable and done after 10, 15 minutes. And then made a little bit of hard work out of it when they went to 10 men. Darren was messaging me during that match, and he was saying this is very comfortable for Arsenal. They should run out here 3-4-5 now. And I couldn't believe when I came in after doing some work outside to finish 2-1.
Yeah, it reminded me of that game when, do you remember we played Liverpool this season, and who was it that got sent off? Oh, of course, it was Granit Xhaka that got sent off, and we just went into a kind of defensive shell. I think that kind of happened Leeds, because Leeds kind of play, even under the new manager, I don't know what's changed between this guy, Marsh, and Bielsa, to be honest, because they're still doing the same things. They're still kind of making the same mistakes at the back. But I think going down to 10, they just kind of kept it a bit tighter. And then sometimes teams struggles to break them down with 10 men. But we still should have. 2 goals is never enough in the Premier League anyway. You always kind of need 3. 2 is, as they say, the cliche, dangerous scoreline. And it didn't come back to haunt us, but it could have. Like, they had one chance and they scored from that corner.
Yeah. Darren, obviously you spoke about Spurs earlier, the match against Liverpool. They would have been very buoyed by that performance. I mean, in terms of, they could have even come away with 3 points at some stage in it, to be honest.
Pretty much so.
We were very blunt up front, obviously. But, what did you make of the performance? It was a Conte masterclass, really. But again, looking into this game, he's kind of going to have to approach it slightly different and slightly outside of his own, say, comfort zone, if you like.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to be a lot more on the front foot here, aren't they? You know, going in against Liverpool, you know, your chances are going to be very, very limited. So you've got to be very, very clinical, and you've got to make sure that when you get those counterattacks that you use them very, very well, which they did, in fairness to them. But I think against Arsenal, they're gonna have a lot more of the possession to start with. Plus, they'll have an awful lot more clear-cut chances. And you know yourself, with the likes of Son and Kane and Kulusevski there, you know, the Arsenal back four in recent weeks has looked shaky at times. Obviously, you know, I spoke to Niall, Maurice, I don't know how you feel about it. I feel like if we played that United game over 10 times, I don't think United would lose it very many times, if I'm honest. I think Arsenal, you know, they got a lot of the rub of the green that day. And, you know, you've got to ride that as well. So I'm not cribbing about that. I just think there was a lot of shaky moments there where they could have coughed up, you know, chances or goals and stuff like that. And they did ride that luck a bit. I don't think you can do that with Spurs, because I just think Spurs are that much more clinical. I mean, you look at the sniff they got for the goal the other day, couple of one touches, bang, bang, and all of a sudden the ball's in the net and you're going, Jesus Christ, they've taken that so well, you know?
Yeah, the players that are coming in for us, like Cedric, I think he actually played right back the other day, and they put Tomiyasu left back, who looks a decent player, but he struggled with injury lately. But then you have Rob Holding coming in instead of White. Like, White was playing well, but I don't think Rob Holding is at that level of Ben White is at. But I'm not saying Ben White's amazing or anything either. But the back four that they had with Tierney involved as well was a lot more solid. But yet again, you can't rely on Tierney because he's injury prone also.
I got to be honest, I think the boy White's been really, really good for you guys.
Yeah.
I think he's a fabulous player. I really, really do. You know, obviously Leeds threw big money at him, and he didn't want to go that direction. And I think Liverpool maybe got involved in the conversation before they went for Kanate in the end, because I think they saw the price was kind of getting exacerbated, and they went, we're not getting involved in this, you know.
Yeah.
But I think he's been really, really good. I think if you can get, you know, the boy Tomiyasu looked excellent right back early on in the season. After he missed the first couple and stuff, got in, kind of made that right back spot his own with Tierney on the opposite side, and then White, like another centre back in there. I'm not convinced by the guy Gabriel. I think if you could put another centre back in beside him and got Tierney and Tomiyasu fit week to week with Ramsdale, that's a really good solid base to put yourself in.
Yeah,
you know?
we have William Saliba doing good stuff out in Marseille there as well. So he's like one, but yet again, if you go back to the manager, he seems to maybe have had a falling out with him. I'm not 100%.
Doesn't seem to fancy him at all, because there's been big talk of the boy Saliba even heading to Spain, to possibly Barcelona or Real Madrid, because he's been so good in France. And you're thinking, surely to God Arsenal would just bring this lad in and get him into the fold. But there's something going on. I think the young lad got the agents involved quite early on when things weren't going well at Arsenal. And he got the agents in maybe to speak to the owners and stuff like that. And the manager, I don't think, liked them going over their heads and stuff like that. Just a little bit of a shaky ground there, you know.
Definitely won't sit well and with a manager when that happens.
No,
you know?
no.
Current form at the moment, Maurice, for Spurs, 3 wins, a loss and 2 draws in their last 6, and for yourselves, 2 losses and 4 wins. So solid enough there at the moment in terms of form, you would think. But I was listening to a Spurs fan yesterday who did mention on a preview that Spurs have finished above Arsenal 5 out of the last 6 seasons.
Yeah.
Which is significant as well in terms of how you balance that, you know. I mean, it's I mean, what have you made when you compare the form of both at the moment?
They're both coming into it in good form, but I'll just say about the finishing above whoever, they still have no trophies to show for it, unfortunately, for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but obviously the Champions League is very important, but I don't know like if we're even ready for that. It would depend on what kind of business they do during the summer, because if we go into a proper season next year with Champions League, that break within the World Cup, all the players going away, coming back, and if we still have that paper thin squad, I think we'll be in trouble. But in terms of form, I think they're both coming into it in good form. I'd expect there to be a bag load of goals in this game, to be honest.
There's literally very little between the two teams at the moment, isn't there? And it's really, when you look at it on paper, you think it's really going to come down to nearly Conte versus Arteta, isn't it? Really, when you think about it, the cleverness or the nous of both managers and how that's going to really pan out, you know. In terms of team news, latest team news is for Spurs, Reguilon, Tanganga, Skip and Doherty all out at the moment. But obviously Sessegnon, Emerson Royal and Ben Davis performed really well the other night against Liverpool, which will give Conte some comfort in that, let's say, especially Ben Davis and Emerson Royal, who both have been a little bit iffy at times, looked really good the other night against Liverpool. In terms of Arsenal, Partey and Tierney are going to be watching from the sidelines by the looks of things. Ben White has a tight hamstring at the moment, but he expects him to get over that and to play. Rob Holding has stepped up. But the fear there, I suppose, is Cedric versus Son is going to be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I'd say he'll swap Tomiyasu to Son, whichever way he does that. I think I don't think Cedric could be left on him.
Yeah, Darren. Possible lineup for Spurs: Lloris, Romero, Dyer, Davis, Emerson, Højbjerg, Bentancur, Sessegnon, Kulusevski, Kane, and Son. Very solid.
Very solid, and I think he's utilised the boy Sessegnon very well, hasn't he? Because I mean, pre him coming in, the kid wasn't getting a look in at all. He'd made this big move, obviously, from Fulham, and he was the next big thing, and he was going to be Gareth Bale's successor and stuff like this, and he really, really struggled to get into the side, and he's been excellent since he's come in under Conte. I think Conte's looked at him and said, you know, the kid obviously has an engine. Physically, he's in great shape. He can get up and down that line. Suits him to play in that left wing back role. As you saw the other day, you know, he's got an eye for a pass, and he can cross the ball, and he can play on the front foot, which suits when you're playing a wing back rather than in a flat four and stuff like that. I think he's got the added covers of having Ben Davis inside him, who's the natural left back and is just playing in the left of the back three. I think we spoke about it a while ago. The big plus for Spurs was getting Christian Romero back on the pitch, because he's quite comfortably the best defender they have at the club. He looks very accomplished at times. His first touch is good. He marshals that defence. The communication looked good. He looks like he actually looks like a fish out of water, because he looks like the only guy at Spurs that looks very comfortable at defending, where the rest of them all look like they're just getting by with it, if you know what I mean. But
the partnership with Dyer has come a bit on, hasn't it? I mean, Dyer has looked a bit about him in the last few months with him there as well, hasn't he?
I still think it's a stopgap though. I think if you're Antonio Conte and you're going into next season as Spurs manager, Champions League or no Champions League, you want to have 2 more centre backs to go in alongside the boy Romero. I don't think he's convinced by Dyer or Davies. I think he'd be happy to go with Royale, and he'd be happy to go with Sessegnon on the other side if he thought he could get Romero in the middle and put two more solid centre backs alongside him. You know, Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Morris, line up for Arsenal: Ramsdale, White, Holding, Gabriel, Tomiyasu, Xhaka, El Neni, Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, and Nketiah.
Yeah, I'd expect that to be it. Just a shout out for El Neni. He's done very well since he came into the team the last few games, and he's kind of a handy little squad player to have, always reliable. I think we messed up when we lost to Brighton and Palace in those two games. We had Lokonga in midfield, and he doesn't seem to be with it at the moment. Like, and he's not powerful enough there to have in the middle of the park. He can just get bullied. So, and then he's a bit more physical. He seems to work well with Xhaka, who's actually been playing very well. And I'm not his biggest fan at all, but he's had a decent season, mostly probably with Thomas Partey beside him as well. But in fairness to Xhaka and El Neni, they've played very well lately.
Yeah, El Neni's come back from the AFCON like a new player, hasn't he, really? I mean, he had a decent showing in the AFCON as well there.
Yeah,
but when he came back and he's put him in, because actually when he's been missing, you've seen it, like you've noticed it. Like,
yeah, I'd give him a new contract. I'd keep him. I think he's a handy squad player to have. He's not going to be the guy that wins you loads of trophies or anything. But if you're looking at our squad now, and we touched on how tid it was, like, be silly not to sign him up.
what about Eddie up front? I mean, is there a way of, would Arteta be looking to convince him to stay in any way, or is that just done?
He's been saying that he's been convincing him to stay anyway for a long time, but I don't know if this run is going to be enough. I think he's got his mind made up, like he wants to play football, and I think he's good enough to play for a team. I really do, but I think Arsenal are going to go in for a striker this summer, and that means that he's not going to be the number one, no matter how well he plays from now until the end of the season. I don't think he could be given that guarantee, so I would expect him to leave.
Darren, go ahead.
Yeah, just how high up do you think he could look, Morris, Nketiah?
Like, well, during the summer, I believe that Vieira wanted him at Palace, and
I recall that, you know, he was heavily linked there, and I think at one stage there was a loan deal being done, wasn't there, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it kind of fell through or something happened.
But I mean, does he like at the minute? Does he go in ahead of the boy Nketiah or the boy Edison Edwards?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, I'm just wondering where he would fit in. I think he's done well, but I think Arteta was very clever. I think he starved him so much of so many opportunities to start that he had him right on the end of the lead when he did let him see, you know, and he just boom, he was right at it because he knew, I don't take this opportunity here, I'm struggling, because this is my opportunity for shop window. If I play, you know, 6 or 8 games between now and the end of the season, and I can score 5 or 6 goals, very similarly to how the boy Joe Willock did at Newcastle last year.
Yeah,
you go on that run, you score a couple of goals, you get your move, you get your money in the bank, and then you can take your foot off the pedal a little bit and kind of coach, because that's what the boy Willock has done a lot of the season at Newcastle, you know. And like Eddie's obviously, he's taken a central role since Lacazette stepped out of the side, but I don't know, looking at him, how far up I could plausibly see him, you know.
Like, is he going to get a bigger club than Arsenal where he's at now?
Absolutely not. He's not. You know, and if you're talking about it, like, would I prefer to be the number 2 striker at Arsenal, where they're going to be involved in 4 or 5 competitions, or do I want to be the number 1 striker at, you know, at, where are we going to say? Okay, let's play devil's advocate. Let's throw Southampton into the mix. Yeah. Because I think that's, you know, he's that 12, 13, 14 spot on the table.
Yeah.
If he goes to Southampton, he might play every week. But what's he going to have to do to take the big step up again? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's at a club where he's going to be involved in European football. Yeah, he's going to be involved in, you know, maybe Champions League. He's going to be involved in top 4 fights, maybe for FA Cups, Carabao Cups. Like, I think at times, I understand players want to play football and stuff like that. But you've also got to look around and go, do you know what? Maybe the grass isn't always greener.
Yeah, kind of admire his ambition at the same time, but I understand what you're saying.
What age is he, Morris?
I think he's only 21, 22, maybe 21.
See, there could be potentially bags of potential there in terms of coaching them and stuff like that. And there's obviously room for improvement there. He comes to me like a kid who plays on confidence. And I think the more you play him, the more confident he gets. And I think you could see a bit of a player about him if he got more game time. And obviously staring into the next season, with the investment that's going to come in
22.
terms 22. So in terms of the Champions League money that will come in and you're placing in the Premier League and stuff like that, there's an opportunity there to maybe stay involved in something that could be very exciting for Arsenal staring into the next season. And I think that, and I think Darren's right. I think the comparison with Joe Willock is a good comparison, but maybe a comparison in terms of maybe you should look over your shoulder and it might be all right to stay where you are. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily a bad place to be with a project like that. That's kind of in its infancy and really only starting now, because he's had an opportunity, Arteta, to get rid of all the crap that he wanted to get rid of, and he'll probably do more of that. But he has an opportunity maybe to bring in some decent players now and lay down a foothold here. And Eddie could be a big part of his plans if he stuck around, in terms of, because he's young enough, you know what I mean? And it's as Darren says, if he did head off into a 14 down club, he may not get an opportunity to jump back up that step again. You know what I mean? Maybe one of the promoted clubs might even look at him. You know what I mean? He could be even lower than 14, maybe. So, I think so. I think maybe if they could do something there, because when you see him play at times, he's excellent, like he's unplayable at times, And then, but he's just a little bit he's like a kind of a rough diamond out there, isn't he? And he's obviously, the club has gone through a tough season and a bit of an overhaul and stuff like that mid-season and all that kind of thing. But it'd be interesting to see what happens with him. Darren, where do you see the matchups in this? I mean, where do you see this kind of going? Like, I mean, obviously we know Kane and Son, and we know Saka and Odegaard and Martinelli and these guys, but where do you see it matching up, or how do you see it going?
So for me personally, I see it being won and lost in that centre midfield position, if I'm honest. I think it's going to be it's going to be really, really difficult for Arsenal, because if I look at the boys, Hallberg and Bentancur as a pair, they look like they've a little more going on than, say, a Xhaka and a Nene, and an El Nene, excuse me. I think El Nene, I got to say, I agree with a lot of what you said. He's got a great engine, and the guy is going to, give it absolutely everything week to week for you. I think he doesn't necessarily have the quality that some of the other lads have, but he's absolutely going to put the shift in. That'll do half the work. For me, I think Xhaka's, he's still miles off the player he needs to be. Although he has improved in recent weeks, he's miles off the player, Arsenal need him to be, to really, be getting everything out of him. I think Hallberg and Bentancur will go in and they'll boss this. They're two nasty bastards, kind of, and they'll put a tackle in and they'll be all elbows and and they'll try and rough it with the two boys. And I think if they get on top and they get Tottenham on the front foot, Arsenal could find this difficult.
Yeah, we don't have a great record there either. The way it normally goes is we normally beat them at home. They normally beat us away. But something we'll have to give at some stage.
But this feels like a cup final nearly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does.
It's kind of sad in a way, really.
It's positioned itself in a way that it's nearly like a cup final, nearly like a standalone game, as opposed to we win at home and you win at home type of thing.
Yes, Sky Sports done very well leaving this game all the way from January till May, didn't they?
Yeah. I think. Imagine if it had been the last game. That would have been incredible. I looked at the betting today. Spurs 11-10, the draws 5-2, and Arsenal are 23-10. So the odds are, there's a little bit of a gap in the odds there, but it kind of reaffirms what we think, that there's not much in the difference between both sides. And this could go either way tomorrow night. So, Maurice, give us your prediction.
I don't think I've ever predicted an Arsenal win. So Arsenal 3-1.
Okay. Darren?
Spurs 3-2.
Spurs 3-2. So we're talking goals anyway. This better not be
100%. Yeah.
I went with a 2-2. I thought that's what I had.
We've covered all the bases, so
yeah. I had a 2-2 written down. I think it has. I think it's built up, and I think it might have draw all over, but I think there'll be goals in it. So I went with a 2-2. I just don't know, when you look at the defense and both defenses and stuff like that. It's kind of with Conte. Go ahead.
Someone is going to crumble, I'd say. Both these teams have it in them to crumble. on the big occasion. So I think one of them might.
Interesting though.
We're looking at third anyway, Niall. Now,
yeah,
Chelsea are on the beach.
Yeah, what you're thinking on that? I mean, they've had I suppose they've had a lot to deal with this season, and they've had a kind of an unmerciful collapse from. They were flying high nearly up till Christmas, and then the whole backside fell out of the club basically, and it got turned on its head. Lukaku decided that 100 million and 300 bags a week is not enough for him. He's not happy. They lost obviously Reece James and Chilwell. Darren doesn't like me rattling all this stuff off, but what did you? I mean, is your feeling that you're? Do
you think all that stuff going on off the field has affected them?
Absolutely. 100%.
It's very hard to feel sorry for lads that are millionaires, in fairness, and they get the privilege to play football every week.
Yeah, but if you think about the first week when it all unfolded, lads were looking over their shoulder wondering whether they were even going to get paid or whether they even had a job. You know what I mean? I'd say Klopp was looking at Havertz for about 10 million or something.
I'd be worrying about all those millionaires who are worrying whether they're going to get paid or not.
Yeah.
What the fuck are they doing wrong?
I have a few.
They didn't at least have a few pounds to cover themselves for a couple of weeks, like.
I've got a few statistics for you, Darren.
It's an expensive lifestyle, Darren, down in Chelsea and SW.
I got a few statistics that will prove that Chelsea are closer to Arsenal than Chelsea are closer to Liverpool and Man City.
You've got
you don't even need statistics to have me, Maurice. You had me a hello, pal.
Okay, if I tell you Eddie Nketiah is level on goals with Timo Werner, would that surprise you?
It wouldn't.
Okay, that's
it surprised me that Eddie hasn't got more.
Yeah, okay. I'd imagine Eddie will have more after tomorrow night.
Smith Rowe and Saka have more goals than Lukaku and Kai Havertz.
That's a big one, isn't it? That is a big one when you think.
Here's a good one for you. Gabriel has more clean sheets than Thiago Silva.
That's a big one as well, isn't it?
That's a shocker.
Yeah, those last two are definitely both shockers. Like, if you were asking me them now on a quiz, I would have went the other way on both of them.
Yeah.
I'd have got Saka and Smith Rowe, but I wouldn't have got Gabriel.
Yeah.
Well,
Havertz has only got about 4 league goals, maybe 5.
Yeah, but I think Saka and Smith Rowe are in double figures anyway.
Yeah, Saka's probably got double figures on his own.
Yeah. I think he's 10 or 11.
And there was early on in the season, there was about 4 or 5 weeks where every single game, Smith Rowe. He hit the straps very early on in the season.
And then he got injured.
He racked up numbers. Yeah, that's right.
He was flying.
He dipped his toe into the England setup and stuff like that. And then he got injured, lost a little bit of form, has struggled to get back in then to the form he was at. I say he's a big season next year coming from him, I have to be honest.
Oh, and I've got one more stat. Arsenal have more wins in the league this season than Chelsea.
There's another interesting.
Unfortunately, though, we have more losses.
So then me predicting a draw is not a good idea then. So it's either a win or a loss. Draws aren't really in the picture. Yeah. Is that what you're telling me? I suppose we spoke about Saka, Darren. We've spoke about Saka, like we laud over Saka on the podcast all the time, and especially the way he's come back after that tournament with England and the penalty miss and all the hate and the abuse and everything else. And myself and Darren spoke eloquently about it last week, about how he's reacted and stepped up and become the man, as opposed to Rashford at United. And the comparison between the two is unbelievable. And him being that younger guy and everything and stuff like that and all, you know. So it's incredible the season he's had with how it all started. And especially, I know when you talk about Ben White and stuff like that and his form and all, but like, they had a torturous time the first 2 months of the season. You know what I mean? It was like, it looked like you were dead and buried. I looked at one stage, we were thinking, would you even make top half?
I think that United and Chelsea and Spurs all have better squads than Arsenal, but we play as a team more than the rest of those. I think that's one thing that we have. We have team spirit. We mightn't have the best squad on paper, but you know, when shit hits the fan, he seems to be able to pull them back up and get a few results. That
reaffirms the job he's done, really, isn't it? Because when you think about Arsenal and you think earlier in the season, you would have never spoke about team or team spirit. If anything, it would have been the far end of that spectrum in terms of disjointed, you know, probably clicks and all that other stuff that was going on, especially when all the Aubameyang stuff was going on and everything else. it was so fragmented. And then obviously
Yeah.
the Shaka stuff and all the stuff that was going on. So for him to be able to pull that around again, that really reaffirms the job that he has done there.
It really puts in a feather in the cap of Arteta when you think about the decision he made, knowing, you know, the best striker I have at this club is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and I'm trying to get this club to get to the next level, and I know in my heart and hearts that the best decision I can make for us as a football club is to get rid of our best striker and give, you know, a young up and comer like Eddie Nketiah, and then a guy like Alexander Lacazette, who has flattered to deceive from a goal scoring point of view. Although at times the performance has been decent, he's never really done himself any justice from a goal point of view. I used to watch Lacazette when he played for Lyon, and he was clinical. Now, I mean clinical. He was winning that Golden Boot in France every year. He was top drawer striker, and he came to Arsenal and he never seemed to hit those heights. But I think it was huge for Arteta, and I think he would have got an awful lot of respect from within the club for making a decision like that. And I think when you're a manager, you know, sometimes you've got to lead by example, and you've got to be able to say, well, yeah, listen, that guy's going to bring us a certain amount, but he's going to damage us so far to the point like it's reputable that we can fix it. So we're going to let him go, and we're going to say, yeah, he is going, but I put the trust in Eddie and I put the trust in Alexander, and like that's got to be huge when you've got a manager who's willing to do that.
Yeah, it's hard to believe like that. It's his first job really when he's making calls like that. Like you have to admire it in one sense, but he still has his flaws as well, though, with falling out with players and things like that. But I can't really judge him until the end of the season. To be honest.
But when you think about that decision that Darren talks about, he literally put his job on the line, because if that backfired, he was gone. So he literally turned around and said, I'm going to put my job on the line here, one of the biggest jobs in world football. And as you said, him being a bridesmaid to this job, he's very, like, this is his first big job, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, he put that job on the line for that decision in moving Aubameyang out. So like, he needs plaudits for that as well, without a shadow.
And you know what? That's the difference for me between maybe a Solskjaer and an Arteta.
Yeah.
Solskjaer wouldn't back himself to make those huge decisions because obviously in the back of his mind he thought, I'm at one of the biggest clubs in the world. I don't get an opportunity like this every day. If I get the sack because the decisions I make aren't good enough, I'm probably not going to get the rub to go anywhere else. Whereas Arteta is saying, you know what? This is how I'm going to do things. I believe in the process. And if it doesn't work, I'll go elsewhere and I'll work back up again. And by rolling that dice, he has put us in with a great opportunity to get top four. And you know, I think from an Arsenal point of view, that would just be massive to finish there this season with everything that's gone on at Arsenal as a club, you know, and how things have changed for Arsenal, you know, because there's been muted rumours at Arsenal over the last couple of years about the takeover and Spotify and this and that. And it hasn't, you know, Arsenal haven't taken their foot off the accelerator for it. They've had a striker who was failing and, you know, was causing trouble inside the camp and stuff like that, similar to a Lukaku. But again, it hasn't slowed them down. They've kept putting their best foot forward, and they weren't using things as a, you know, as a this is what's happened to us, poor us, like the other side of London, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose when you look back on that period in Arsenal's time, it did make up part of the narrative, but it didn't come across as why always me. You know, if that's what I mean, you know. But listen, pleasure having you bowed on, Darren. It's not often you have to represent the wide of London, but thanks for coming on.
My late father was an Arsenal fan, so we'd be rolling over in the grave at this.
Oh, I tell you, I believe him. Just do a switch on that background, put Arsenal to the other side. Maurice, talk to me about GP Productions. What's coming up? Who's coming on this week? What's coming out?
Oh,
and where they can find you, of course.
This will be out today. So Ed Draper, Sky Sports News, will be out today. What have I got? A few more Tiger King stuff coming up, and a few more wrestlers in the pipeline that I have to kind of get over the line, but like there'll still be 2 episodes every week.
Darren wants to know where am I getting more lingerie fighting championship girls on and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I could only get the ring announcer on this week because they've got a big fight in Las Vegas on Friday night that you should check out on pay-per-view, or you can fly over and get some tickets for it if you want.
Oh, I'll tell you.
We might get them on our first sticks now. What do you think?
Yeah,
we could possibly get them on that TV there behind me right now. All right. Well, listen, lads, a pleasure as always. Maurice, where did he find you?
The usual places. I'll YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Don't really use TikTok anymore. Kind of got sick of that. Twitter, kind of got sick of that too. So
we're
Facebook
big on
and Instagram.
we're big on TikTok. We're
Yeah,
big on TikTok, Maurice.
I just can't go in, and people fucking dancing and stuff like that. And do you know the way, like, you used to be able to just pick what you could see, but now you're scrolling and there's all types of bullshit coming up, and I can't do it. I used to, I think it's been about a month or two since I uploaded the video. I logged into the app, uploaded the video, and then just went straight back out of it and didn't even look at it again since.
That's okay.
It was like Snapchat.
That's okay. If you want to use it as an advertising tool, that's all good.
Yeah, I had Snapchat for a while when Snapchat was big, and then the same thing with that. I was just like, do you know what? No, get out of this.
As you know from watching the shows, Darren's a big fan of Fred, and when we mention Fred on TikTok, they go in hard. They go for Darren really hard, and then a few of them had to go off me this week as well. But it's all in good jest. We enjoy the banter, and they always get a good love heart at the end of the comments, so it's not too bad. As always, folks, drop your predictions down in the comments here for a massive game coming up Thursday night at the new White Hart Lane. Tottenham versus Arsenal. This is going to be massive, and there'll be some banter between now and then as well. Until next time, if you want to contact the show, the uppertierpodcast@gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, audio shows, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts. You'll find us wherever you're looking, and we will talk to you again real soon. Cheers, lads.